Good evening, passengers. Flight 305 to Seattle-Tacoma is now boarding at Gate 52. All ticketed passengers should proceed to the gate for immediate departure. The night before Thanksgiving, somewhere above the clouds between Portland and Seattle, a man in a black tie and a trench coat lit a cigarette, ordered a bourbon, and quietly handed a note to the flight attendant beside him. She thought it was a phone number. He told her it was a bomb. He called himself Dan Cooper. He vanished into the wind with $200,000 in a parachute. 50 years later, we still don't know who he was, where he went, or if he even made it to the ground alive. But maybe that's the thing about myths. Maybe they don't land. They just drift on the breeze, changing shape every time someone looks up. The House of Syx presents Bourbon, Bills, and a Breeze. Welcome to the House of Syx. I'm Jenn.
I'm Jared.
You sound very peppy.
I'm very, very peppy. I was not peppy enough our first episode.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to bring the pep.
Let's talk about the first episode. I cut the piece out and I put it at the end because I wanted it to be a real reflection of how we were feeling in the moment, which wasn't great.
Right. It was a little challenging. Yeah.
It was, what did you get out of it that we need to do better?
I don't worry about it that way or look at it that way. This is a work in progress where I think as we talked about it after, I was a little thrown because even though I guessed what the first topic was, it was still a challenge for me. That's the best way to put it.
That's not really a subject that you
specialize in.
No. Or that. But also, you're not really into that stuff. You don't watch the documentaries like I do. You'll watch a documentary with me. And sometimes you start the documentary, bring it up. But you don't really watch that stuff. So maybe the subject matter was a bit much for you.
For the first go. Maybe it was. Yeah. But you
evisceration.
Okay. You gave me a little insight into this one is the fact that today is not dealing with... It's more true crime in general, not necessarily... death.
I figured that I should have thought that through and not started with intestines.
Okay, fair. You started the very first podcast with what you wanted, right?
Yeah. And really, this is about me. I've taken a different tactic this time, but also I found that I was monologuing the first go around and you were doing the opposite of that, which is not talking.
Okay. Well, let's improve it starting today.
Yeah. On to today's topic. I'm going to let you guess again to see if you know what I'm going to talk about.
I don't have a guess today.
No, you have to guess.
Okay, fair. You said that we're not going to do alien type stories, or at least not anytime soon. You told me it was more, I guess you could say mystery versus murder. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Some type of bank heist. It's
D.B. Cooper.
Okay.
Yeah. So
another hit of yours. Yeah.
It is a top 40 hit for sure. I wanted to do something where you wouldn't be uncomfortable. And something that you may know a little bit about because I personally have watched every single D.B. Cooper documentary that exists.
You have, and which means I've at least watched half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. So I thought I would go with something that you know about where you could provide your very important insight and have a little bit more
right. The pressure's on.
Interaction.
I got it. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go back. It is November 24th, 1971. It's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. It's approximately 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we are at Portland International Airport. early in the afternoon, but it's still getting dark. Storms rolling into the Pacific Northwest. So it's starting to get stormy. It's not a great day out. It's cold, wet, heavy with cloud cover. And being 1971, it's probably, the airport atmosphere is probably like coat sweat, cigarettes, and still coffee.
I like it.
I feel like that's what
No,
1971
it's pretty good.
airports are. I feel like that's what that is. A man walks into the airport. He's all alone. Nobody sees him being dropped off by anybody. He doesn't speak to anybody. He has no carry-on luggage, just a black attaché case and a small crumpled paper bag.
Okay.
He is described as white, mid-40s, around 5'10" to 6 feet tall, 170 to 180 pounds, with short, neatly combed dark hair, and he is clean-shaven. He is wearing a dark suit jacket and matching trousers, a white starched collared shirt, narrow black clip-on tie with a mother-of-pearl tie clip, a black raincoat, a pair of dark loafers, and most notably a pair of large, dark sunglasses, which he wears indoors.
Yeah, a little Men in Blackish.
This man walks to the Northwest Orient counter, buys a one-way ticket to Seattle, paying cash. It was $20 for a 30-minute plane ride. He gives the name Dan Cooper. No ID is required at this point in time. No questions asked. He's handed a paper boarding pass for Flight 305, which is set to depart at 2:50 p.m. He proceeds to the gate. There is no security screening. It is 1971. No metal detectors, no x-rays, and no ID identification required for boarding domestic flights. Basically, you could walk in with anything and everything, even more than 3 ounces of liquid, get on a plane, and do whatever you want.
Yeah, he might have, as we're going to talk about.
I wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Dan Cooper boards a Northwest Orient Flight 305, which is a Boeing 727 with 3 rear-mounted engines and an air stair door under the tail, a feature that no commercial aircraft has at this point in time.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that.
Or ever. Lesson learned.
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
Spoilers. The flight is lightly booked. There are 37 passengers, 6 crew members, including Captain William Scott, First Officer William Radizak, I'm sorry if I got that wrong, Flight Engineer Harold Anderson, and flight attendants Alice Hancock, Tina Mucklow, and Florence Schaffner. Cooper sits in seat 18C, which is an aisle seat almost to the very rear of the plane. He is polite, he is soft-spoken, he doesn't make small talk, and he just seems like a normal dude doing his thing.
18C was near the rear of the plane. That's what caught my attention. In fact, 18C is barely outside of first class these days. You know,
It's
size of the plane.
I don't know if it's even in Delta Comfort Plus.
Right.
Yeah, he's in the back. Although, statistically speaking, the back of the airplane is safer when you are in an airplane crash than any other part of the aircraft.
So they say.
Yes, I have watched all of the documentaries on the airplane crashes.
Too many, actually, yes. Usually it's right when I would be getting ready to go on a trip, and I could walk into the room and see that. Yeah.
Sorry.
No wonder I don't want you to make me a cocktail.
Ooh, those are not related whatsoever. Anyways, he immediately lights a Raleigh cigarette because, of course, you should light up a smoke in a metal tube thousands of feet above the earth filled with oxygen and jet fuel, but cool.
Different time.
He orders a bourbon and soda. Classy.
Oof.
Classy. Pays in cash. Leaves a tip. Sips, drinks, smokes, and waits. At 2:50 p.m., the plane is pushed back from the gate, taxis, and takes off towards Seattle. Around 3 p.m., once airborne, Florence Schaffner, the flight attendant, starts regular service. She walks past the man in 18C, and he hands her a small folded note. Very, very discreetly. She doesn't read it. She probably gets hit on all the time.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Do you like me? Check yes or no.
She's thinking business guy. He's going home, shooting his shot. Puts it into her pocket.
Looking to shoot his shot.
And she walks past. Cooper, as she's walking past, leans towards her slightly and very calmly but firmly says, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb."
Attention gotten.
I have a bomb.
Yeah.
I have a bomb. I have a bomb.
Trying to determine how you should best say it.
How do you
grab someone's attention to really mean that
I have
you
a bomb.
have a bomb? Right.
I have a bomb. Anyways.
I think you covered them all.
I could keep going, actually.
Yeah.
I have about 17 more versions, but I'll spare everybody. All right. I have a bomb. This just changes everything.
Yeah. It should.
It should. We're going to take just a little bit of a pause here, and we're going to talk about what is going on historically and socially at the time. So we're going to add a little bit of context to all of this because I think that it matters. 1971 was a year that was very heavy with uncertainty. America was still in the depths of the Vietnam War. Nearly 3 million troops had served. Tens of thousands had died, all for a war that people were not believing in anymore. Protests were still flaring up on college campuses. There was draft dodging, flag burning, military funerals. This was all a part of the national landscape at the time. Richard Nixon was in his first term as president, and trust in the government was already starting to fray. I could make a connection to today and how things are going politically in our world.
It's a whole nother podcast. Like another channel, another everything. Yeah. We got plenty of material, though, with that said.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on. That June, the Pentagon Papers were leaked, and this was a very confidential report that essentially revealed the U.S. government had been lying for years about the war that we were in. The public was angry and extremely suspicious, tired of all these shenanigans. The economy wasn't helping. That August, Nixon threw the whole world for a loop and took the U.S. off of the gold standard. Inflation was rising, unemployment was rising, wages were stagnant, and essentially this was just the beginning of a storm that nobody really understood quite just yet. Again, I could compare this to our current climate. Air travel at the time was extremely casual at this point in the security sense. Airport security was minimal. You could walk on to a plane with a suitcase, no questions asked, no ID, didn't matter what you had in your bag. This was obviously before the days of TSA didn't exist. And essentially, if you had $20 in a clean suit, you could fly across the country.
Right.
Culturally, things were shifting. Optimism of the 60s was dying. Rebellion was still floating about, but it wasn't free love and flower power. It was disillusionment and distrust. So that's the world. Tense skies, unraveling government, a country at war, questioning ideals, living paycheck to paycheck. It sounds like I'm talking about today. So much to say about
There's so much to say.
There is so much to say.
D.B. Cooper, though.
D.B. Cooper. We're back on the plane. It's roughly 3 p.m. You are Florence Schaffner. You have been handed a note. And he says, Miss, you better look at that note. I have a bomb.
I like that one. That was good.
All right. So she opens the note. It is typed, very clean, very businesslike, in a non-threatening tone, although I think anytime you say I have a bomb, that's
Should be
an
threatening.
immediate threat.
Yeah.
It says he has a bomb and demands that she sit beside him. Obviously, she sits down. He cracks open his briefcase just enough to show what's inside, and she sees 8 red cylinders, a battery, and some wires.
I am going to think TNT.
That's
Right.
Yes.
Right. So
Yes.
I'm immediately going to think of now, is that because of old Westerns? Is it because of old
That's actually what
cartoon?
TNT looks like.
Right.
It is
So,
actually
right.
red cylinders.
Right. But I haven't.
That could also be a
but
road
I've-
flare.
But I've never held one, and going, this is cool. So, that is what we think. And now the battery, I'm sure, look, I'm not a electrical or mechanical engineer, so therefore I'm assuming that's just some type of charge that would ignite said TNT.
I think Wile E. Coyote, 100%.
Sure.
That's what when I saw that description of the bomb, I went Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah, my favorite cartoon as a kid. I'm okay with that.
Really?
Yeah. Roadrunner? Come on.
This is very annoying.
Yeah.
Look, the coyote was predictable. He did the same, it was too easy to beat him.
I understand.
All you have to do is paint a fake
Tunnel.
on a rock, and it's just,
Yeah.
he's dumb. It was
Yeah.
very upsetting. I think I like the Flintstones.
Yeah, that's what could do.
Also dumb. Man and dinosaur did not live at the same time. They didn't.
True.
Moving on. All right, so she sits next to him. He then gives her his demands, written down. He wants $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, 2 front chutes and 2 back. I'll get into that later. A fuel truck ready in Seattle, and no funny business. I'm sure if I saw a bomb, I wouldn't have the reaction that I immediately thought of when I saw no funny business. My immediate response would be, it's time for fucking funny business.
Right.
This is where you make a joke. You should joke about this right now. It's probably different when you're threatened with being
When you're
blown
actually
out of the
there.
sky.
Right. When you're there.
Right. Florence takes this information, walks to the cockpit, and relays the message. The pilot, Captain William Scott Smith, radios ahead to Seattle-Tacoma Airport and contacts Air Traffic Control and Northwest Orient HQ. From there, the FBI is alerted, and the plane is instructed to continue cruise. It's only a 30-minute flight. They're probably nearly there at this point. So they begin to circle the airport, which turns into the longest short flight ever. Cooper remains calm, courteous, and eerily polite. He orders another bourbon and soda, pays for it, continues to tip. This guy, class act.
He's a gentleman.
He is. I love a polite terrorist. Sorry. He allows all 36 passengers to stay seated and never threatens anyone directly. In fact, they had no idea anything was even happening.
That's what I thought, yeah. Because you would maybe have someone try to intervene, but yeah, I figured they didn't even know what was going on.
I don't know. At this day and age, pre 9/11,
Yeah, but still.
people really didn't.
Yeah, well, I guess if you could
react the way
smoke
they
and drink
would
and all
today.
that stuff, I mean, of course you can drink on a plane, but if you were that laid back in that day and age, maybe you didn't care. I don't know.
Apparently not. Well, they didn't even know anything was happening. I mean, flight delays happen all the time. Airports are busy.
Yeah.
It is rainy. There's stuff going on. They could think that it's a weather situation. We don't know. And that speaks to the cockpit crew and the flight attendants. They continued to maintain standard cabin service. They acted naturally. They didn't alarm anybody. They didn't make public announcements, change timelines, anything like that. They just went business as usual. Flight attendant Florence Schaffner later said, "I tried to act as though nothing was wrong, and I think I succeeded." I'd have to agree, because passengers later reported that they had no idea anything unusual was happening, just that the flight took way too long.
Yeah. There was a bomb on my plane? What? That was one of the guys.
That was good. Meanwhile, the FBI is scrambling to put together the ransom money. Northwest Orient's president, Donald Nyrope, gives immediate authorization to pay the ransom. Bold move. Standard issue at the time. This was common practice. So the FBI quickly secures $200,000 in used $20 bills from Seattle banks. The bills are photographed and serial numbers are recorded to a total of 10,000 bills. Which I thought, I bet that's heavy. 22 pounds.
Well, yeah.
22 pounds.
Okay.
The cash is bundled into a small bank bag and prepared for a covert delivery. They had to get 4 parachutes fast. They contacted a skydiving school near Seattle, Issaquah Sky Sports, and McCord Air Force Base, which is just south of SeaTac. And they received 2 civilian sports parachutes that were fully functional and 2 reserve chutes, one of which turned out to be a dummy training chute and thus was non-functional, and this was unintentional. They didn't mean to do it. But most of these dummy chutes there's no ripcord, and it's essentially used for training exercises where obviously they're not deploying out of a plane.
Don't use that one.
At 5:24, the flight lands at SeaTac Airport, and Cooper has given precise instructions to dim the cabin lights, bring the cash and chutes via one person only, no police or snipers, don't release passengers until the goods are delivered. So at least he's pretending to act in good faith that he's going to release the passengers. Which he does. A single airline employee approaches the rear stair door with the money and parachutes. Cooper checks everything over and then releases all passengers and 2 flight attendants. Those left on board are the pilot, the first officer, what's it called? The flight mechanic.
I don't think that's what
engineer.
Okay.
Flight engineer.
Okay.
And 1 flight attendant.
Oh, hopefully the one making us cocktails. Poor decision if it wasn't.
I think he's done drinking. I think he needed a little liquid.
I'm going to need
courage.
another drink if I'm about to, do what he's about to do.
At this point, the plane sits on the tarmac for another 2 hours while all of this is happening. And most passengers, even though they sat on the tarmac another 2 hours after circling for 2 hours, still had no idea that anything untoward was going on. One said, "I figured something strange had happened, but a hijacking? That didn't even occur to me." How very professional all of the crew acted. I think that's really cool that they kept calm, cool, collected. Like that's some professionalism.
Yeah.
I would have been hyperventilating.
I would have been asking questions after this long, though.
What the hell is going?
Right.
What the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Let me off the plane.
Right.
They're like, "Man, sit down."
It's a phone.
Don't tell anybody. At roughly 7:40 p.m., with just 5 people aboard, Cooper gives specific instructions for the next flight. Head towards Mexico City, keep altitude at 10,000 feet, dim all external lights on the aircraft to the lowest legally allowable level. I find that one really interesting because he wouldn't have been able to know.
Yeah.
You can't see the outside lights from the cabin.
Yeah.
He's very self-assured.
Yeah. I guess he's just done his own personal research of what he thinks is a step necessary. I don't know.
So, dim the lights? I should tell him to dim the lights.
Right. Yeah.
They're going to do it. I have a bomb. Keep working on that. All right. Speed no more than 200 knots. Keep landing gear down and flaps at 15 degrees. Rear stair must be unlocked and capable of manual deployment. He knows this plane.
Yeah, right.
He clearly is very knowledgeable about this specific plane and aviation in general. Between 8 p.m. and 8:11 p.m., they fly into rough weather. It's still cold and rainy, and there is a cloud cover, and at that height, 70-mile-per-hour winds.
Well, because I was thinking about different winds, but at 10,000 feet, yeah, it's not. You'd be a little bit cooler air, but I doubt the wind speeds. I don't think the wind. Well, yeah, but I don't think the wind speeds would be that drastic. But again, I'm not a meteorologist.
You wish you were.
I'm a part-time meteorologist when storms are moving in.
Guys, stop. If there is a weather event,
Specifically a tornado.
that's true. But I'm telling you what, dude, when there is a storm, this guy is like, the wind's picking up. And then he's like, that's a lot of red.
Yep.
There's some purple in there.
Yep.
Then you know.
What's
then
purple?
You know it's more rain.
It's hail.
Oh, really?
Same. That's what do you think I'm paying attention for? See, I just proved my point. Somebody's got to do it.
Your car is in the garage. Why do you care about hail?
So, anyway. Yes,
I
am a part-time meteorologist. I just wanted to get off the fact that you're saying my old man stuff. Oh, look at this.
The weather's getting rough out there, guys.
As I said the other day, the grass is really getting greener sooner this year. Anyway.
I know, and I looked at you and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, is this... The grass is getting greener, guys. Right. Oh, my God. I don't know why I went into, like, goofy voice. It's not what you sound like at all. 8:11 p.m., the light on the cockpit panel flickers. It indicates that the aft stairs have been deployed. The crew feels a bump. This is what they did in the documentaries. The cabin pressure shifts, but they can't look back. They can't see anything because Cooper has instructed the pilots to leave the cockpit door closed.
Oh, okay.
So they can't see anything.
Yeah.
They don't know what's going on. And by the time they land in Reno, he's in the wind. He's gone.
Yep.
He's out of there. All this time, the FBI has already begun to mobilize. They have deployed resources on the ground to track the flight path so that they can potentially try and get him in the act. Now, how they're going to, they have to be at spots along the path. So that probably isn't very helpful. They also deploy 2 F-106 Delta Darts, which are interceptors, 1 T-33 trainer jet, and 1 Lockheed C-130 that could track from a higher altitude. This sounds great because they're deploying 4 planes for air surveillance. However, the 727 was flying low and slow as instructed, and the quicker planes that were deployed had to continuously loop and circle around to match back up with the airspeed. So their visibility was very, very little. And remember, Cooper had asked for all of the external lights to be dimmed as well. So it makes the plane a little bit harder to see. It's cloudy, it's rainy, it's nighttime. They didn't see a thing. Nobody saw anything.
Right.
They just have that little bump at 8:11 when the light flickers. That's all they know. But they were able to pinpoint that spot at the very least.
Okay.
Retroactively, because they had to get to Reno first. And then that's when they told the authorities about the bump.
Okay.
This is just bump. All right. At 10:15 p.m., the plane lands in Reno. The FBI immediately boards the plane, finds that he's gone. He took with him the black attaché case in the bomb, 2 parachutes, 1 main chute, and 1 reverse attached. Possibly the crumpled paper bag. Nobody ever mentions that again. Maybe that was his lunch, his sandwich.
Yeah.
Unconfirmed. All notes that he had written during the interactions on airplane stationery napkins, those were all taken. He took those all back. He requested them back. Possibly his drink glass from his bourbon, because that's gone. His boarding pass and ticket stub are gone. And himself. He took himself. His whole body jumped out of the plane. What he left behind and evidence recovered was the tie and the tie clip, 8 Raleigh filter cigarette tips, his cigarette butts, and 2 parachutes he left on the plane. What could they do with this information? I like to talk about what forensics were available at the time, because we're a little bit out of, I mean, we're still in modern times in 1971, but obviously they didn't have what they have now. So we learned last time, fingerprinting came about in 1901. They lifted hundreds of partial prints from the aircraft, tray table, cup, and seat area. But they were all partials, which I found that interesting, that they didn't get one full fingerprint. They were all partials.
That's odd.
That's interesting. And it didn't match any known criminal in the databases at the time. They did have witness sketches that I showed earlier. They have the serial numbers from the money that they handed over. And then they have the visual search of the ground search that they are getting ready to deploy. What they weren't able to do. DNA is still about 2 decades off, a little under 2 decades off. It came about in the late 1980s. They didn't have any surveillance footage. There were no cameras in the airport or onboard planes at this point in time. No thermal imaging, GPS, or radar tracking. Everything they have in 1971 is very primitive compared to what we have today. Certainly not enough to track a dude parachuting out of a plane in the middle of the night in the rain. The manhunt begins. The FBI begins a massive ground search in the dense forest of Southwest Washington. The FBI calls this NORJAC, Northwest Hijacking, and it is one of the largest and most resource-intensive investigations the FBI ever launched up until this point for a single unknown individual.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. They deployed paratroopers, dogs, helicopters, and, as we know, aircraft surveillance. And absolutely nothing is found. No parachute, no body, no briefcase bomb. Fuck all.
Like a fart in the wind.
You're so eloquent. It's just every time. Heart palpitations.
It came from a movie. I can't remember which one that is. Oh, now I'm all bogged down this.
I'm pretty sure it's not a movie I would watch.
Yeah, you did. I know what it was. It was Shawshank Redemption. Gone out of here like a fart in the wind when they couldn't find him in the cell. Anyway, go ahead.
Objectively, I know that is a really good movie.
Yeah.
I am aware of that. Cinematically, beautiful. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I can tell it's a good movie, but I'm bored.
Oh, okay.
Through the whole, until the end when he escapes, and
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. It's a fantastic movie.
And I would also never say the phrase.
Right. Yeah, agreed. Thank you.
It's not.
Yeah, too ladylike.
Oh, I am. February 10th, 1980. Brian Ingram, age 8, is with his family on a camping trip. They are near the Columbia River shoreline at a sandy bar called Tina Bar, just north of Vancouver, Washington. Brian is digging a fire pit in the sand when he comes across a decaying package of rubber-banded bundles of cash.
Okay.
He pulls them out. There are 3 bundles of $20 bills. He has just found $5,800 in the sand. The serial numbers were confirmed by the FBI to be a part of the Cooper ransom money from 1971. The money was badly decayed but still readable and matched the NORJAC records. After nearly a decade, the theories exploded. They've now found money from one of the most infamous hijackings that have ever occurred up until this point. So, theories abound. How did the money get there? There are 3 theories, most likely theories. Number 1, Cooper buried it intentionally. He jumped, he made it, he thought, we need to misdirect or bury the money and come back for it later.
Right. Yeah.
I can't hike out of the woods with 22 pounds cash.
Right.
The problems with this, the location is very remote and exposed. Nobody buries money in sand near water.
Yeah.
That
okay.
sounds... You're not a pirate.
No.
You are not a pirate.
I think that I could run with that in the fact that, one, if it was dark, if it was still dark when he buried it, maybe he didn't know exactly kind of where he was. Or two, he didn't really give a shit. Just he needed to bury it, period. I'll take my chances.
Maybe. It was... Why just $5,800, though?
No, I agree.
That's less than 3% of the ransom money.
Right.
It seems very
weird.
strange.
No, it's weird.
It's very strange.
He left it for a buddy. I don't know.
That's a good buddy.
Yeah.
I have never left $5,800 for a buddy.
Worked in Shawshank Redemption.
Touche. I have no response to that. Theory 2. The money floated downriver from a failed jump.
Okay.
He's flailing. Parachute doesn't open, or it does, and somehow he...
Right. Yeah. Sure.
Because he drops the cash.
Right.
He didn't have it properly secured.
Right.
And it falls and somehow lands buried in Tina Bar. This is not possible. It's not close enough to the jump site. So here is the originally suspected landing zone of somewhere he fell somewhere in here along the flight path. Tina Bar's over here.
Yeah.
It's nowhere near that.
Yeah.
Some say it could have floated down the river. The problem is the river flowed the other way.
Well, I was going to say also, I think that if you, to your point, were flailing and there would have been other money found, like meaning bills, like just loose bills, whatever. It's not like he was in the air flailing and he's like, here's $5,800 in that bag. And yeah, right.
Yep. Well, the thought is but I feel like if it flung out of the bag,
you would have found,
it would
exactly.
be like, I've seen parades where they throw confetti. I'm going with the confetti thing here. It's the same, like it's just sky confetti.
Right.
It goes, like there's no rhyme or reason to it. It doesn't stay together.
Correct.
Or...
Especially in a high wind like that. It's going to blow anything apart, like that.
Yeah.
It's going to be loose bills.
Yeah, or maybe it fell to the ground and busted open.
Sure.
Then it busted open.
Yeah.
But again, it couldn't have gotten from where he jumped to Tina Bar.
Yeah.
The location doesn't make sense.
Yep.
So it had to have been purposefully placed there.
Agreed.
And that's theory 3. It was planted there.
Yeah.
It was a clear misdirection.
Oh, okay. I'm with you. Sorry, I didn't catch that. Yeah.
He landed and either got out of there and came back to Tina Bar later, or he hikes with loafers.
Right.
Probably not with loafers. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened to the money? What did the FBI do with it? Obviously, they seized it after the family reported it. The bills were analyzed and documented. Brian Ingram was allowed to keep part of the find years later. He was given back $2,800 after a legal battle with the FBI. They sued to get the money back, saying finders keepers. Obviously, the FBI was, guys, it's an open investigation.
Well, yeah, the money should have gone back to the FBI. They should have just given him some type of...
I still have to say finders keepers to a certain extent. They don't need all of that money back.
Yeah, but you also said it was badly decayed.
Well, to that point, over the years, Brian Ingram has auctioned off several of the bills and gotten thousands back in return. So he got back.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
So it's Cooper lore.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I didn't realize. Yeah, that's actually smart. So.
Yep. Years later, in the 2000s, the black JCPenney clip-on tie left behind was recovered. And in the late 2000s, the FBI finally tested it for DNA. It's actually interesting to me that they waited this long because DNA became available in the late 80s.
There were more pressing cases, probably. This case had come and gone. That's my opinion.
But it was still open.
Agreed. But there were other cases open, I'm sure. They were hot.
Most certainly. They extracted partial DNA from skin cells or sweat residue on the tie, but the sample was very degraded and incomplete. In 1971, they probably didn't know about DNA, and they probably didn't store it very well.
Right.
It wasn't kept in the cold or so, who knows. It is often referred to as a partial DNA profile.
Okay.
Probably one of the biggest frustrations of this case is that we know we have DNA.
Can't do anything with it.
There's not a whole lot that we can do with it.
Yeah.
Furthermore, this really gets me. They found the Raleigh cigarette tips and the cigarette butts left behind. They threw them away.
Not the best move. Because there really could have been a lot more than just sweat. You're talking saliva.
Saliva,
you're talking everything.
You can get a full DNA profile from saliva. So that's interesting. To be fair, 1971, they don't really know about DNA.
Yeah, and I know, but it just adds to the
trash.
craziness of the story, though.
Yeah, that really gets to me. I think about that a lot. I wonder if we could retest the DNA. It's currently in the possession of the FBI, and they have not released it for further DNA testing. It has progressed from 2011.
Oh yeah.
Significantly.
Yeah. Maybe they'll get to it one day.
There are more pressing cases, is what I hear.
That's what I think.
In 2011, a team of citizen investigators and scientists known as the Cooper Research Team, they went all out with that name, using electronic microscopy and X-ray analysis, they discovered unusual particles embedded in the tie. Titanium, strontium sulfide, and cerium, which is a rare earth metal.
Okay.
These are not everyday workplace particles. These can be found in aerospace manufacturing, chemical engineering, high-tech metal or electronics production. One theory is that he may have worked at or near Boeing, which had facilities in the region and used all of those materials.
Okay. I'd forgotten about that. Because again, I know we talked about that. I've seen half of the documentaries you have, but I don't remember all the details.
And
so it's relearning, right?
What's cool is that they found this in 2011.
Right.
That's so cool to me because that tells me the first documentary that I watched didn't have that information in there.
Right.
We're learning new things every day.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Theories, not suspects. The working theory for most experts is that Cooper was either a former military paratrooper or cargo jumper, familiar with the 727 from troop transports. Could have been a civilian skydiver with deep technical understanding. He could have been someone trained in aviation operations, not necessarily military, but I mean, this is in the middle of the Vietnam War, so there are plenty of vets there with some experience that might be going around a little disillusioned and angry.
Right.
So that though. Or he could have just known somebody in any of these different professions or backgrounds, and he could have just got all the information out of him, and he has like a photographic memory. Or that's what was in the paper bag. It was his notes.
Oh, yeah. Right. Bag of notes.
Sandwich or a bag of notes.
Right. Clearly one of those.
What was in the paper bag?
I think it was his lunch.
You'll never know. What happened to Dan Cooper? We have three options. Don't tell me what you think yet. Okay? We're just going to go through the theories. Talking about what we think happened, that's at the end. We got to get to the suspects and the theories.
Okay.
what happened to Dan Cooper? We have 3 options. Number 1, he died. Jumped out of a plane, hit the ground.
Yeah.
In some fashion. This is the most traditional FBI theory. They believe this because he jumped in the pitch black over remote mountainous terrain in the freezing rain with no visibility in loafers.
Right.
He didn't have a suitcase. He had a attaché bomb and a paper bag. There's no hiking boots and paper bags. The winds were very high at the time, and it was 36 degrees Fahrenheit on the ground.
Right.
Not to mention what it was at 10,000 feet. I didn't do that calculation. Still, it's cold. It's just above freezing. He wore a suit and loafers. Loafers again. I don't think if he was Bear Grylls, I bet he could survive in a suit and loafers. I love that guy. It just occurred to me, I bet you Bear Grylls could survive in a suit and loafers.
You're acting like he didn't. We haven't gotten there yet.
That's true. We haven't gotten there yet. And then he jumped with a non-steerable sport parachute and a dummy reserve chute. All of these come together in that either the chute didn't deploy properly, or it did and he broke a leg and froze to death within hours. Most people don't buy it. This is the FBI's main theory, but most people don't buy it because there's no body, there's no chute ever found, no briefcase, nothing. $5,800 is found on Tina Bar, which is nowhere near where he would have landed. Most people don't believe this.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yep.
I haven't talked to most people.
Okay.
All right. Now, I had to look this up a little bit because I was like, why haven't they found a body? I have seen one documentary where they like traipse through the woods looking for anything. They've got metal detectors and all sorts of stuff. They never found anything. But I had to look up why wouldn't they find something in the last 40, 50 years? Because that's just crazy to me. For one, dense terrain. The Washington wilderness is vast.
Yep.
Forest, gorges, rivers, ravines. It's rough terrain. Even the trained search team wasn't able to find absolutely anything buried in the brush or trapped under a log, whatever that may be. The search was delayed by days before they had calculated the search zone of where they thought that he jumped out and where he possibly could have landed. So if something happened to him in the jump, that would have allowed wildlife to sort of step in and
I wasn't thinking about that.
do their thing. So, which brings me to scavengers and animals which could have taken care of a body in the woods.
Yeah.
Viscerally. And then the reason that the parachute or the briefcase were never found is it could have ended up at the bottom of a river. There are...
Somebody could have taken it. Yeah.
Possibly. So that's theory 1. He died. Theory 2, he survives. He takes the cash. He's in Costa Rica.
Right.
Or somewhere
Wherever,
else.
yeah.
He's not caught. This is the folk hero theory, right? This is what everybody wants and really keeps the case alive. It's believable because he obviously had very clear tactical thinking. He was very well prepared. He was very knowledgeable, and he was extremely controlled and calm throughout the entire ordeal. This seems like a guy that knows what he's doing.
Right. That his good fortune and his approach to everything, and therefore his good fortune, just kept on going.
Kept on into the sunset, if you will. Obviously, he knows about parachuting. He knows about planes. Some people, you talked about earlier, jump out of planes for fun.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Don't jump out of planes. That's not on my bucket list.
No.
I'd have a heart attack before I even got out. Like, I'd immediately jump and just...
Yep.
Because I'd panic.
Right.
Because it's
I would too.
Scary. If this is true, this suggests that he landed, hiked out of there, and either changed identities and fucked off to Costa Rica, or he lived quietly. Like, you'd have to learn how to launder money.
Right. It'd be a lot of work.
Or never touch it. And
a lot of work for only $200,000 as well. So.
Of note, at the time, that was $1.5 million in today's money.
Okay.
That's not a tiny amount
That's
of
actually
money.
more than I would have figured, yeah.
It's a lot of money. I wouldn't be sad. I could do some things with $1.5 million.
Sure.
I couldn't do everything I wanted to do in life, but I could do some things.
Yeah.
Theory 3. He survived. He lost the money.
Okay.
Flinging around. He didn't secure it right. It flies out of his hands at 40 miles an hour, whatever. And he loses it. The money breaks free, scattered somewhere. Maybe Tina Bar. He lost his gear. Maybe he hobbles out of the woods with one shoe and a broken arm.
Yeah. And lives his life out as
Lives
the
his life
manager
sad.
out as the bowling alley manager. Yeah.
Why a bowling alley?
I don't know.
Probably not a fun job.
Just going with the story here.
Oh, we're going to go into the suspects, assuming that he made the jump at this point in time before we decide how we want to decide. Who could it be? We're going to start with Kenneth Christensen. He was a former paratrooper in World War II, longtime Northwest Orient Airlines employee as both a flight attendant and a mechanic. He lived modestly in Washington State. He was familiar with the Boeing 727. He knew about the rear stair mechanism. He suddenly paid cash for a house after the hijacking. He has a photographic resemblance to the FBI composite. He allegedly liked bourbon and chain smoking. Who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
No. He had a stack of unexplained income that didn't match his Northwest salary. In 1994, he died, and his brother later claimed he confessed. Kenneth allegedly told him, and I quote, "There's something you should know, but I cannot tell you." And he died.
Well,
that could
tragic.
That could be a confession for anything.
It could be.
I am Dan Cooper.
Yeah.
I slept with your wife.
Right.
I murdered a man.
Right. It can be anything. It is.
It's angry. I'm like, there is something you should know, but I cannot tell you.
It's good acting.
He had no confirmed alibi for the day of the hijacking, but no hard evidence tied him to the case. And the FBI never considered him a prime suspect.
Okay.
Cooper was described as mid-40s, 5'10"-ish, 170 to 180 pounds. Christensen was 45, but he was only 5'8" and 150 pounds. Post-hijacking life, he lived a quiet and reclusive existence. He left behind a modest estate, and some claim he kept suspicious newspaper clippings.
So he's an odd dude, no matter what.
He's a strange dude. But is he Dan Cooper?
Right.
Yeah. Next, we have Robert Rackstraw. He was a decorated Vietnam vet, paratrooper with explosives expertise, and a pilot. He was also a known con man and serial liar. He was known to have multiple fake identities, and he was tied to several fraudulent schemes that include forged credentials and military records, check fraud, possession of explosives, grand theft, murdering his grandfather, borrowed a plane and faked his own death.
Okay.
This guy has lived.
Well, he's yeah. I already have a negative about him, though.
He was captured in Iran and expedited back to the U.S. Dishonorably discharged in 1971, the same year as the hijacking, for misconduct.
Okay.
He had no solid alibi for Thanksgiving of 1971. However, the FBI investigated and dropped him as a suspect because his age and appearance don't perfectly match eyewitnesses' accounts, among other things.
I would agree to that. It just, there's no match there.
In 2016, he was featured in the History Channel's D.B. Cooper Case Closed, which makes a circumstantial case. Rackstraw gave the following slick and evasive answer. I'm not going to say yes, and I'm not going to say no.
Okay.
He's cool.
Yeah. You go, Rackstraw.
In official statements to the FBI, he denied that he was D.B. Cooper, obviously. But this dude, if you watch him in the documentaries, he loves the attention.
Sure.
He was living it up.
Yeah.
In any event, he died in 2019.
Yeah.
Fun TV fodder, though. That's fun.
Sure.
He was a character, apparently. Next up, we have Richard Floyd McCoy Jr. He was a Vietnam vet and helicopter pilot, a Mormon Sunday school teacher in Utah. He is a suspect because he pulled off a nearly identical hijacking 5 months after this one in 1971. He hijacked a plane, demanded $500,000, used a fake grenade and a note, and parachuted out with the cash.
Okay.
Yep. Similar techniques, exited the stairs and everything. Same thing. He does have an alibi for the Cooper hijacking. He was in Utah with his family on Thanksgiving. Family's not the best alibi.
Okay, yeah.
If you did some things and you needed an alibi,
You would hope they would cover up for you.
I would cover for some family.
Right.
Not all.
Right.
Depends on who you are. Yeah. Not a great alibi. Also, the composite sketch doesn't match.
Well, he's also young.
Great.
He's very young.
He was arrested for the copycat hijacking, convicted, went to prison, escaped prison with a dental impression that he used to make a fake gun.
Okay.
He was killed in a shootout with FBI agents in 1974.
Okay.
Yep. Those are the 3 most considered suspects. So, these are our suspects.
Right.
So, assuming he made it,
Yeah.
we're going to make that assumption right now. Who, out of these 5 guys, who do you think is the most likely suspect?
So I just have to choose from these 5 guys.
Just these 5 guys.
I think the most logical would be Kenneth Christensen, just because of this pilot and is working with the aircrafts, and he does fit at least the profile from the picture we have. Lives in the area. Yeah, that's about it. He knows a lot about airplanes.
He knows a lot about airplanes. He does. I'm going to go with the FBI on this and say that if he made it, it was Richard Floyd McCoy Jr. He recreated, I think, if he made it out, he lost the money, or he gambled it away. He
Sure.
doesn't seem like a solid guy.
Yeah, or he just buried it in a lot of different sandy places.
And then forgot because
Right.
he was, I don't know.
So you think you think it was him and he just repeated it?
He just repeated. I mean,
yeah.
he did the same thing, and technically, he almost got away with it the second time.
Right. No, I agree.
And
with that.
then he escapes prison.
Yeah, he's crafty.
He's a crafty guy. He's a
Yeah.
crafty guy.
Right. I'm okay with that.
Yep. Now let's talk about what we actually think. Do you think he made it out? Do you think Dan Cooper jumped and made it?
If I had, I'm not like sold, and I know probably by watching different things and listening to this that I've had many different, or one side of the fence to the other. But if I had to say, I really do. Actually, I think that there was a great chance that he made it.
You think so?
I do.
How
I mean,
are
there's
you-
challenges, right? The 100-mile-an-hour plane, you're jumping out of a plane at 200. It can destroy the body and all of that. But again, I think I've never been skydiving. But when you are skydiving and you're going down, you're going at great speeds, faster than what I assume, even faster than what a prop plane is going. Probably way faster. Your body falling to the earth.
I don't know.
So the body can withstand a lot of things. There would be great challenges, but I think it could be done.
You think so?
Yeah. You don't.
Splat.
Okay.
I don't think he made it.
Yeah.
I think he chose two parachutes, one which was difficult to maneuver, and I think he probably could have done that if he was an experienced jumper.
Yeah.
The other was a dummy. He might have done that on purpose. He was calm and collected, so that's entirely possible. But it was dark, it was rainy, it was yucky outside, there was no visibility. He jumped in loafers. I can't stop going back to that. He jumped in loafers in the middle of a forest.
Understood. But
In the
if the main thing is that if he doesn't go, the only reason he goes splat is if the parachute doesn't open.
Let's say it did open.
Okay.
He's in the middle of a forest. That shit got caught in a tree.
It could have.
Now, he could have cut himself down, certainly.
Is that what was in the paper bag? A knife?
He had a knife in the bag.
It was to cut the sandwich.
With the sandwich.
Right.
He had a knife and a sandwich.
Right.
He ate the sandwich, took the knife.
All right. Okay.
And then he could have, even if he got stuck, but if he got stuck in a tree and cut off the parachute, he fell and broke his leg and froze to death.
Yeah.
I think
It would have taken a
highly
lot.
unlikely.
I agree. It would have taken a lot. I'm just saying that it's possible.
Oh, it's possible. And frankly, I think that is what I want. I want the anti-hero
Right.
here to win and make out with all the cash and take a flight. You don't need your ID. You get on a flight to Costa
Right.
Rica. Oh,
Right.
wait, international flights, they did have to have an ID.
Yeah.
But anyways, go buy a car for cash. Was it $100 to buy a car in 1971?
Maybe.
Buy a car with cash, drive to Costa Rica, live like a king with $1.5 million in today's money.
Yeah.
That's what I want. But realistically, no, splat.
And you just think they haven't been found because of the territory and the.
I mean,
Yeah.
a body in the forest, that's
Yeah.
lunch.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, and in theory, somebody could have found a parachute in a Washington forest decades ago and gone,
Right.
and just went about their day. Like, that's weird.
Went back to their cabin in the forest and actually has no knowledge of anything like this. So yeah.
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 Yep. I think he splat.
No, that makes sense.
Yep. I have to go with I don't want it, but I have to go with the most logical. To me, that's the most logical.
It probably is.
Yeah.
Not changing mine, but it probably is.
No, you don't have to change it. It's okay. You can believe what you want to believe. It's possible,
Yeah.
not plausible.
I'm not like one of those guys that goes, "Oh, it happened." No. In a case like this, you couldn't. No.
ultimately, D.B. Cooper went from a criminal to a cult hero.
Right.
This case has been studied for decades, not just by the experts, but by web sleuths.
Yeah.
It's a fun case. He's not famous for what he did. He's famous for vanishing in the thin air
Sure.
with some money.
Sure.
That's compelling. He tricked the system, drank a bourbon, and jumped into legendary status.
There you go.
That bourbon gets me. Bourbon and soda.
It's disgusting.
You like bourbon.
Not and soda. That's horrible.
I don't. It's classier than bourbon and Coke.
Sure. Not as good tasting, though.
And I don't know. Most hijackers at the time were political or desperate. And I think that D.B. Cooper was just a very calm, unassuming, quiet dude that got on a plane and then disappeared. I think that's just really... He's the criminal people root for.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
he's not like Jack the Ripper. You don't want that guy to
He
get
did it
away
in a very classy way. Like, again, he didn't cause a stir. He didn't hurt anybody. He did it for his purpose and his purpose only. Everyone else, you're fine. I'm just going to take my money and I'm going to jump out of this plane. Yeah.
I can respect that. Damn the man.
Yeah.
Take the cash.
Yeah, right.
I started to say take the gun, leave the cannoli. That's what almost came out of my mouth. I had a Godfather moment somehow. Final reflection. The man, the myth, the loafers.
The loafers like it. Yeah.
Nice.
No, it's a good story.
Yeah. Bottom line is, though, I mean, just kind of circling back a little bit, is that this guy, whoever he is, whether he lived or died, he hijacked a plane. That's a felony at the federal level. He totally shook up the system. I mean, very shortly after this is when America had had enough. They implemented security measures that, frankly, should have been implemented before. But that aside, you had a society that was exhausted from war, from lies, institutions that are failing them. I could make some correlations today. Keep going on that. But I still think people like a good story. They want the legend to be true.
We wouldn't be talking about it if that wasn't the case.
They want the legend to be true. Right. So I think that's interesting and all, but I don't think he really is a legend. I mean, he was quiet and methodical. That's certainly true. But if he's hijacking a plane, no less, for $200,000, this guy's probably in debt. He's 45. He probably has indigestion. Like, he's wearing loafers. I can't stop talking about the loafers.
Yeah.
He jumped out of a plane and... Anyways, I just don't think he's a mythical legend. I think he's just a normal dude that puts on pants every day.
Yeah, agreed.
It's just, he's not special, and he's probably not interesting. And he certainly wasn't brilliant.
Yeah.
We've made him special, which is... I think that says more about us than it says about him.
But I think that's also okay. And again, in this sense, if it was, if this turned out to be more of a tragic event, I'd be troubled by it. I'm not. This is something cool and fun to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope he got away. I hope he's in Costa Rica. I mean, he's probably dead now. I hope he died in Costa Rica.
I hope his body's in Costa Rica. Yeah.
Oh.
When he lived his life out there. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it.
Okay, that was a good one.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I did. I liked it. I should have been able to guess it. I didn't. So, it was good.
It's a pretty classic Jenn.
It was.
Case.
It was.
Yeah.
You're intrigued by it, and always have been. So, and it's always a good story to me.
It was fun.
So, yeah.
Did you learn anything today?
I was reminded of a few things.
Yeah, I didn't learn anything.
I probably learned something, but
You learned what a knot was.
Valid.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep. You want to do it again sometime?
Sure. You think we can keep this going?
Indefinitely.
Oh.
There are thousands of cases we can talk. I haven't even gotten to ancient Egypt.
You haven't even. No, we're gonna save that on the back burner for a bit.
You're not looking forward to that?
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So this is fun.
It was.
Okay. Until next time.
Appreciate it. Until next time.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
If you like what you heard, rate, review, and subscribe.